That's the first time I ever said that number out loud as a year. 2020 board meeting of the Leilani Community Station Board of Directors to order. Welcome to all of you coming out on this winter night. And I'll pass it over to Alice Lindell, our secretary, who will take the roll.
Okay, President Andy, Vice President Robert Golden.
Present.
Treasurer Cheryl Kopp.
Present.
Secretary Alice Lindahl, I'm here. Director Daryl Singleton.
Here. Present.
Director Patty Zistifer. I can usually do that. All right. Valerie Banton.
Okay, so as we have done for the last 3 months or so, we feel that it's been a good format that we start with comments or questions from anyone in attendance, so that hopefully as the meeting moves on, we might be able to answer those questions. A couple of protocols that we like to follow. The first is that please, if after you speak you remember that you have something else to say, wait until all the people who want to speak have had their go-round. So everybody speak once until everybody who wants to speak has spoken. We will not in any way not permit you to speak multiple times if you so choose. However, we do ask you to limit yourself to 3 minutes if at all possible. It can go on quite a long time. And then also in this first go-round, we're not rigid about it, but we prefer that this be a time for questions rather than just statements. There will be a time at the end of the meeting, almost identical, where you can make simply a statement or you have something you want to say. But again, we're not going to place any great restraints on it. So in no particular order, is there anyone who would like to start out with a question? Okay. Oh, and I'm sorry, I also didn't say, would you give your name and where you're located?
Hi, I'm Joe Abbott, and I live on Park Street. I'm wondering if any progress has been made on the traffic abatement on Kimono Street. As you all are probably aware, there was a terrible accident there just recently, the cause of which was excessive speed. And so I'm just wondering if please there's something done about that. And where's our gate?
Okay, so two questions. As to the first one, we are going to have a presentation during this meeting specifically about Kimono and Moku Street. So hopefully that will answer some of that.
Okay.
And then on the gate, we did announce a meeting or two ago that the gate committee did not come together. We did not get anyone who stepped forward to serve on the gate committee. And so for lack of community interest, the gate committee idea was tabled. And we did that, I think, 60 days ago. Does that sound about right? Yeah, I could look it up to be exact. But anyway, that's where the gate stands right now.
We voted for a gate.
Right.
Where's our gate? The committee, could you, if they're active, they would get one. Why do we not get our gate?
It was going to take a lot of research, and it would take a team of people to really do the legwork. As the word gate proved to be a fairly broad word that involved a lot of details to be worked out in terms of both the legality, the logistics, the cost, the form, the style, the placement, all of those things, and it literally died of lack of interest, apparently.
Well, I can guarantee that those of us on Kimono and Huron are not interested in it.
Okay. We'd be happy to reopen I mean the committee charter still exists. We did not negate the charter. So the charter still exists. Joe, if you would like to kind of take it under your wing and build a committee, we absolutely encourage that.
Awesome.
Okay. Okay. Who's next? I
Can
get
I
it.
add something to Joe's?
Yeah.
You talked a couple meetings ago, not just last time, the time before, and it was very, very powerful. And I tried to get a hold of you quite a few times, and you must have bad phone numbers or bad email or something, and I kind of gave up.
I'm
So
sorry,
if you could bring me some contact numbers for you after the meeting, that would be great.
my phone broke.
Oh, well, that was it. I don't know if I called you.
This is not a question, but since
Give
we're...
your name
Okay.
and story right now.
Robin Stetson, and I live on Capona Street also. And this is not a question, but it's related to Capona Street, it's something I've been wanting to report, I guess you'd say. But someone keeps taking the barricade and throwing it into the bushes. And we pull it out just about every day.
Wow.
And it started when somebody ran into the barricade and it halfway fell apart, and Jeff screwed it back together. And then for a while it was just people moving the barricade off the road, and we would put it back on the road. And then at one point somebody took it and they took it about half a block further towards Malama, and we put it back. And then they started throwing it in the bushes on both sides of the street. And I don't know who's doing it.
When you have a barricade on the street.
Okay, let's not have any crosstalk right now. So, are you speaking of the wonderful yellow barricade?
Yeah.
That the
Yeah.
Christopher Mustard team put
Yeah.
together? Okay,
So anyway, that's been going on, and, you know,
yeah. Well, whoever it is, they have perseverance.
as do we.
Anybody have any thoughts on that? Anybody on the board have any thoughts?
So I thought we got some monies available to have video cameras.
Yeah, well, actually, we'll be talking about that tonight too.
That might be a solution.
Okay, okay. Thanks, Robin. Anybody else have a question or they'd like, or question statement? Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
No, it's okay, go ahead. What's your name and where you live?
David Fred, I live down the street on Local Street.
Okay.
Why do we have these barricades?
Uh,
Volcano's over.
yeah,
We live here, it's an open subdivision before that.
okay.
Let's get back to normal. Why are we blocking everything off? And where's this gate coming in? What gate, and where do you want to put a gate?
Okay. The gate, as I said, the gate's been tabled. And so the gate's not a discussion right now, unless you wanted to start a gate committee.
Where is this gate gonna be? I live there, I wanna know where a gate's gonna be.
Yeah, the gate's
Talking
tabled.
about
The
it.
gate's tabled.
Huh?
The gate's tabled. There is no gate
There's
under
no
discussion right now.
Right now.
That was
Yeah.
it.
And then the barricades, the best answer I can give, I live way up at the top. The best answer that I can give is that the people who are affected by the tourism mostly very much want that barricade. Hang on a second, I'm giving you an answer. The people very much want that barricade. And so I think the best thing to do would be to talk to the people who live behind the barricade as to
You
their.
guys put the barricade up, right?
I put them up, and I had help.
Chris?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, very well made.
He's
You know
what?
This subdivision's an open subdivision or public. Now, after we have a disaster is one thing. The tourists are not bothering us. Some people are making a lot of money on this private little tourism. But besides that, you know, down at Capolo, they used to be open. They started gating it, and now the thing got covered by lava and a lot of air. And there's the karma right there. This place is an open place. We didn't have no problems before. Why all of a sudden all this gates and blocks and all this crap?
Well, we didn't have Fisher 8 before either.
That's right.
We didn't have
that.
tourism before.
It's the number one
Hawaii
tourist
has
destination.
tourism, and it's not bothering us in here. The people got a right to come here. You came here from somewhere.
It's not bothering you, but it's bothering us.
Why?
Can we just have one?
Yeah, guys, honestly, we don't want to open it up right now. We don't want to open it up right now for crosstalk. There will be a time for that. But I will, how about if I do defer to Chris right now? And Chris, would you give a little background on the barricades?
It was a cheap, temporary, movable solution, friendly reminder, give us a break. That's all that was.
And
It
Chris,
wasn't designed to make residents angry, it wasn't designed to to create hate and discontent across the land. It was just something to keep the people that are just random rental car type tourists to kind of give us a
Well, what
break.
about the
Let me
druggies?
hang on a second.
What about
Let me
the
just ask
druggies?
Chris-
Yeah.
let me just ask Chris,
Why don't you
what-
do something about that instead of the tourists?
I try when I can.
and Chris,
Yeah.
do the barricades block access to that road?
Absolutely not. That was the key thing. We couldn't block the road, but we could just put something there that gave people who didn't live back there a reminder that, hey, this is for residents and their guests.
So in other words, if I want to drive in another subdivision, I'm not allowed to go to another subdivision because I don't live in that subdivision? Even though I'm visiting my family or friends?
That's
I would
not what we're
suggest.
saying.
With all
Your
due-
guests, you're free to
Okay,
go.
let me answer this
If
question.
you're guests, you're free to go.
With all due respect, I don't think in other words, equivalency you just used has any real applicability
Seems like you
here.
guys are trying to lock this place down. For what? Are you afraid of something?
Go ahead, Robert.
David, please respect everybody's speak. And we're not having, Andy just said we're not having crosstalk. One person speaking at a time, let people speak. Okay,
There's some
please,
others.
please respect those rules. Thank you.
But I respectfully, no, I disagree with you. There's no lockdown. I've never felt like I couldn't drive anywhere in the subdivision at any time.
Then what's
I
the
wanted.
problem with the tourists? How many people are really born and raised on these islands?
Does that buy you some kind of a special
How can
dispensation?
us people that come in here, all of a sudden, oh, we want gates, we want fences, this and that. You take Hawaii away from Hawaii.
Well, but it's the United States of America, and so at the end of the day, democracy rules as law.
I understand.
Andy, can we go on with the comment, having one person speaking at a time?
Yeah.
And let's move
Yeah,
on.
but there's only one person speaking.
Okay, well, Dave spoke and now let.
Yes, okay,
Understand?
okay, in the back, let's just go right down the road there, you got, okay, go,
Oh, you just first then.
no, go ahead.
All right.
Just a
Keep
minute.
Raymond, live up the street on Oakview. To finish up with this, the barricades or signage, if you will, in the beginning, did a little something. Very rapidly, they were discarded and they are of zero use. The tour vans go right by them, all the tourists and the rental cars go right by them. They're an eyesore now and they're of no use. I say that they should be removed.
How many of you live what I would call behind the barricades? How many of you live it? And of those people, how many of you feel that the barricades still have any efficacies, that they do any good at all? Okay, so it looks like the majority of people who are raising their hands, I know that's not a scientific poll we just done, but it appears that the majority of the people here anyway would disagree with you.
And that's fine.
Okay,
I was just merely voicing my opinion.
Okay.
They're entitled to theirs, it's all good.
okay, Jim?
That's my observation of daily walking on the street
Okay.
and seeing what happens.
Great, like you said, absolutely valid. Jim, what do you got? And I'm sorry, introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Jim Penny, I live on Moku Street. I've asked this before at other meetings, it
Yes,
would
sir.
help us, for people that don't know each other, if someone would say north side of Moku or south. South is where the barricades are, so I'm not impacted by it other than I see it. But north or south, if you just, when you introduce yourself, that would help us out.
And for those of you who don't do north and south well,
This is
you can also refer to it as Mulana side and Coppercrest side.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jim. Chris, what do you got?
Hey, Chris Burmeister, Cuckoo, whatever. I put those up, and I was thinking about over the last week that maybe the one on Cupono should be taken down. I'm okay with it. It doesn't bother me. But I noticed that the one on Moku Street is nice and pretty and looks brand new. The one that's getting the most abuse is Cupono Street. But I've talked to people in lower Leilani, and they're for gates for individual streets, and I've said this a million times. We'll pay for it ourselves.
Yes.
I mean,
No, wait.
the one that's up at the top of Malama, right next to Annie's house, I'd buy it in a heartbeat. And actually, we had signed a petition on my street with all the as many property owners as we could get, and everybody is pretty much on board with it. I know what the people that it aggravates the most is the people that don't either own or don't even live on those streets. Those are the people that get upset, okay? And they act like we're blocking them out, but at the same time, if you've got property on that street, you get access. That's fine. You're always gonna have access to your property. Nobody's trying to cut access to anybody's property. But
If you're trying to make a separate subdivision
No.
for that neighborhood.
I know how you feel it, the third world bamboo stick, but you know what? That's what your comment to my little barricade that I have.
Bamboo one.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the bottom line is that 95% of the
Russ, why don't you
traffic
wait for him to be
ceased.
done then?
We had peace and quiet for for the whole time. And it was a lot better, and believe it or not, we're ripping stuff. I mean,
Well, okay,
it's just-
let me just, and Russ, I'll let you go on that. The gate charter clearly called out that there would be representatives on that committee who were both in support of a gate, in opposition to a gate, and people whose opinions were yet to be formed about it. The idea was that a group from the community would get together, discuss it, and bring to the board a recommendation based upon a group of people's shared wisdom. We certainly, as I said, we certainly could reopen that committee. And in fact, we could rewrite the charter. Those of you who don't like the way it's written can do it, but we would want people to pitch in and give a hand with it.
I need to add something.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The reason why a lot of these barricades don't work is because internet websites are updated just like that, and people say, oh, just go around the barricade, so the average Joe that doesn't know anything about this place just goes right around it, because somebody somewhere noted that. Okay, if you have a gate way down on all those side streets, and it affects less people, okay? It's only affecting those people that are on that road, okay? It's not one gate affecting the whole neighborhood. That was the whole point of having them on individual streets back there. And once that word gets out on the internet, hey, there's a damn gate there, there's no reason to go back there. I mean, I'm not saying it's gonna cut it down 100%, never.
Well,
But it's,
I'm not
Russ, why don't you go now?
I'm not opposed to gates per se. I am opposed to what it sounds like right now, we're talking about making a whole nother neighborhood where we're gating off so you can't go. We're all one neighborhood.
well, then take all the barricades down now.
Russ, do you-
Right.
Russ, I'm asking this in genuine, I honestly don't. Do you live in the area affected by tourism?
Not really.
Okay.
But I'm just saying it's all one neighborhood.
Okay.
And we all go by the same rules, we're all paying the same dues, it's one neighborhood. So if you're gonna do a gate, do it one that's for the neighborhood, not make a whole new separate neighborhood, because now we're talking about, it sounds like, and I don't know, it sounds like a gated neighborhood on that side. Well, what about this side where the people are affected over here? We're gonna gate it over here too for that.
Could you imagine the
Three
traffic?
neighborhoods?
There is no traffic.
I mean, could you imagine, hey,
Not on your
imagine-
street, sir.
could you imagine the traffic on Leilani Avenue with one gate?
Well, listen, and Rod, hang on just a moment. It sounds like that this is, for many of you, still a very important subject on which you have strong opinions. So it seems to me that we should not,
Why not vote on it?
well, hang on. We did vote and we voted
I
for
never get
it.
mail from you guys unless I get a bill from you guys. I thought there was a vote on this tower too. I don't even get reception on my cell phone, but that tower is paying you guys something.
Are you actually expecting us to improve your reception?
Who let the tower in? For reception, for cell phones in the subdivision.
Who let the tower in?
The cell phone tower out there?
What's wrong with the cell tower up there?
I don't get reception on that cell tower.
You must be AT&T.
I don't care who I am.
That has nothing to do with that tower. He does.
Oh, it's Verizon. So we all gotta join
Learn some
Verizon.
Hey, guys, hang on a second. So, this is the comic interlude moment. So, and I apologize for those of you who aren't in a comic mood, but I'm running the meeting, so.
Yeah.
I went through 20 years of Leilani procedures and votes and board meetings and minutes, and I'll bring out my very first one. Some of them are pretty good. Resolution passed by the Board of Directors on November 12th, 1992. It was resolved, made by, I won't mention a person's name, motion made by, that during a board meeting or a general membership meeting, if a member is disruptive and they refuse to yield the floor, then the police will be called and the disruptive person will be removed. A recess in that meeting will call until such time that the police arrive. So anyway, it's good to know that we've been down this road before. Okay. End of comic interlude. Okay, moving along. Rod, you were next. Introduce yourself.
Rod Kendall, I'm over on Alapai. My understanding of the charter for the gate was centered around the one at the top. I would certainly encourage that you revisit it and the focus rewritten to be down here, and then people can debate it in committee and you can table it if you agree.
Okay, great. Anybody else? So may I make a suggestion with the permission of at least those in attendance and the board, of course? May I make a suggestion that it sounds like this gate subject needs to be reopened, no pun intended, and needs to be rediscussed. And so, are there any of you out there who would be willing to serve on a gate committee if we were to reopen that charter? Okay, so that's 4, that's 5, and so that's 6. So, and so why don't we, Alice, why don't we revitalize the charter? And Alice is our secretary. And if you are among that group of people, send an email to the board of directors. It's bod@leilaniestates.org, stating that you would in fact like to serve on that committee, and we'll get a meeting place and time, and we'll fire it back up again. Is that all right to leave it like that?
I have an easier suggestion.
Go ahead.
I already have a list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, and if you come up after the meeting, write your name and your phone number, that would be great.
Thank you.
And
There we go.
I have another request talking about the gate, and that is when the gate was voted on, there wasn't a place that everybody could, talk about where it would be or where it wouldn't be, because that's going to be the goal of the committee.
Right.
And so there's no sense getting upset about where you thought it would be, because it hasn't even been discussed yet. And it's, when you think about all the logistic problems regarding, keeping, having passes for this thing, it really is a hard problem. So it isn't,
The main thing about the gate being on Leilani Avenue was the red tape, the amount of hoops this neighborhood, we'd have to jump through. Mark can tell you all about it. And it was a nightmare, trying to get county cooperation. So it was tabled, and that's why.
Okay, so
It's easier to put them on our roads than LCA.
So is it all right if we defer the gate discussion to a committee meeting, who will then bring recommendations to the membership and to the board of directors, and then we'll move on from there? Okay, does
I
anybody
have
else
lots
have
of
a second?
openings, so if you change your mind during the meeting, you can sign up.
Okay, go
Is there
ahead.
any restriction on being, 6 people, 8 people say there, that's okay with you guys? That would constitute?
The charter called out that number, I think it was between 5 and 9, we said, I don't remember. And we did say that we wanted a representation of not people, who were all for it or all against it. We wanted to get a cross-section of at least of a starting out place.
And one member from the board?
No, the board was not going to have a member either. That committee.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Aloha, my name is Heather Kaluna. I got a copy of my question/statement. I'm writing a little quote, so I'm not going to be able to say the whole thing, but that's for your records. This is my first meeting as a community member, but I'm born and raised here, as it says, 3rd generation, Leilani Estates resident. So just to limit it down to the questions, and I guess you guys can make this statements after. I
I'll
think the
make
biggest
copies
thing
of-
is there a proposed budget to justify the increase in our membership annual dues?
Yes,
And where has that, I haven't seen it from the
yeah. There was an original draft of it that was given out at a meeting 2 meetings ago, was published on our website, was published on 3 Facebook sites. It was a letter form explanation.
a letter.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll have to look at the website.
Sure. I can get you a copy of it too. Happy to.
Is it okay if I ask another question?
Oh, of course.
I
What,
have,
what kind of out of control here?
I've been following the profit loss documents,
The what?
profit and loss documents
Okay.
that you guys have been putting on the website. And it appears that a significant fraction, sometimes 56% to as high as 74% of our expenses go towards salary and wages.
Correct.
And I was just trying to understand what are those, when we're spending up to almost $9,000 a month on salary and wages.
Correct.
I'm curious. as
We
to
we have 2 employees. We have a maintenance person who works full-time, 40 hours a week. And we have an office person who works part-time, 25 hours a week. The maintenance person, I believe, right now is paid a little under $20 an hour, and the office person is paid just a tiny bit under $15 an hour. We pay for their medical benefits, and we pay, of course, all of the state taxes and withholding and all the other costs that have to do that, and that's what accounts for that.
So why is there the fluctuation from month to month? Is it just the hours they clock in? Or?
Yeah, there might be a slight, well, because months have different number of days.
Well, it goes from like 6,000 to 90,000.
We'll have to take a look at that. That may be wrong.
And also maybe when the reports were printed, because
Oh,
when I
yeah.
posted to the web, Kim hasn't necessarily done all of the closing for the month, so then you may see one later on that has a different number in it when she's completed all the closing.
If you look at the actual date on the report.
Yeah, so that would make a difference too. So
I can interject one other thing. We pay every other week as opposed to based on a
Yeah.
month.
Yeah,
So a couple
Yes.
months a year, you have an extra.
yeah,
Yeah, because we pay every other week, not twice a month,
right.
you're gonna have 3 paychecks in some month, 2 paychecks in others.
And it's fair to point out, we used to have 3 employees, but after the eruption, we're down to really a skeleton crew, and they work really well. And they're overloaded.
Thanks, John.
I think that, the accounting. It looks like we've also been paying for our accounting, legal fees in a pretty significant amount as well. And so I just wanted to inquire as to what that was.
You're at cash audit.
But yeah, accounting,
Cash audit, it costs you about $7,000.
yeah.
And we do have regular accounting fees every month anyway, because the CPAs do some of our closing entries, they take care of some of the taxes, they file some of the tax forms. So the accounting firm gets paid something every month, even besides the cash audit that we did. The cash audit costs a few dollars.
Cheryl's the treasurer, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
So that's where a lot of that went.
And then the legal fees will vary depending upon legal actions that we have to deal with. Sometimes we have more legal expenses and sometimes less. There are lawsuits that we have to respond to. There are advisements that need to be taken. The boards all through Leilani's history, from the research I've done, have been pretty careful about following the law. And for example, in 1998, the state of Hawaii put in place a law, 421J, that brought homeowners associations under very stringent guidelines as to things they both could and couldn't do. So we're, I wouldn't say constantly, but regularly consulting with an attorney to say, how should we proceed on this particular action or this decision, or how should we respond to this question or this concern? So yeah, lawyers are in it on a regular basis.
So I think just so that I'm understanding correctly, the audit, the cash audit is like a one-time thing, or is it like
Yeah,
a?
one kind of thing.
It hadn't been done either ever or in a long time. And it was done for two reasons. The membership very much wanted one, it was being asked for. And then also, we had a sudden change of treasurer, and that's a standard trigger for an audit, that when a treasurer steps down and a new treasurer steps in a non-orderly manner, that the new treasurer and board kind of draw a line in the sand and say, everything looks good. And by the way, everything looks good. So anything else?
I know, like I'm going.
No, that's okay. Good questions.
How do votes get conducted?
How do
Votes,
votes for,
the associate, or the community?
there's the board is elected once a year, at which we'll be talking about. And then there are no other votes taken by the community. It's a representative government where the board acts on behalf of the community. There's only a couple of things that the community in the past has voted on. We found one situation where the community voted to pave the roads. 1999, Mark, something like that, 98, 99? Yeah.
It was 96.
96? Yeah, the vote was 96, right, you are, yeah. So there was a vote for a special assessment back in 96. I don't think there's been to the best of my knowledge, there hasn't been a vote called by the community for anything since then. Oh, the gate, yeah, that's right, the gate vote. Thank you, sure.
I don't remember getting, and so how does that work if it is supposed to be the general community?
It was mailed out to every address of record. Yeah, it was mailed to all the, and we got back,
Just before you moved here, that's before you.
oh, there you go, okay, it was before you moved here.
And one last.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, guys. I thought there was a request for a vote for the increase in the annual fees.
Boy, that's a bit of a long answer.
Could you repeat the question, please?
I thought there was a request to vote for whether or not we should go ahead with the increase in the annual fees.
So it wasn't so much a request as there was an opportunity to vote. The board voted, but because the board voted for a greater than a 10% raise in the assessment, it kicks in a clause in the bylaws that permits the community to hold a vote, to veto that that decision. So there's still 5 days remaining in that window. January 14th is the end of that 60-day window. And I won't go into it now, but the bylaws very specifically call out the procedure by which that happens. And so it's absolutely something the community can do, can choose to do.
I missed that, a vote for what? She's talking about, you tell me?
For the dues increase
That just came up, you guys raised it to $200.
correct.
Now the vote is only within a limited days ahead coming up, but we're not gonna talk about it, discuss it right now. And we got, how many days left?
It's been discussed for 3 months. Every board meeting for the last 3 months, it was discussed and published in the minutes and published on
Okay, it's
Facebook.
fine. There's a lot of people here that I know, and this is a fact, they live on these streets, they live here, they don't come to these meetings, they don't get informed by you guys, And they're just, it's like you guys up here are making your own decisions, but then a lot of the people who actually live here and come in, I don't get a straight answer and it's the runaround. Because I came to these meetings before, and I walked out just as blank as when I came in.
It's published in 4 venues.
But we have
Let me, just because you're referencing there's a lot of people, that's kind of a loaded sentence. But let me just follow on that. How many of you feel like you're not getting informed and and that you are getting a runaround? Okay, how many of you feel like you are being well informed and are not getting a runaround? Okay, so there seem to be a lot of people who seem to feel
that
that.
are informed and stick with you guys' little ball game. I'm talking about the people out here that are busy working.
Who are those people?
Down the street, I have neighbors, they work, they don't, actually they've been here for a long, long time, and they never seem to get things done or whatever. Or, I mean, it's not done, it's just, all of a sudden, these things are just thrown on us, and it's like, what the heck, where's this raise coming from? But you guys got the okay to raise it. Why did it go up so much when we lost half the subdivision?
Exactly.
And then, you know what, we all took a lesson our own ways, maybe these guys got money here, and they got idle time to hang out with you guys, but I'm working, I'm trying to get by.
Go ahead, Robert.
And as I get older, I don't want to keep getting nickel and dime to death.
David, everyone here is volunteer. No one's making any money.
Okay,
David, I'm talking. Okay, but I heard you talk. I would appreciate if you listen to this.
I'm finished.
Okay, thank you. I personally get insulted by some of the things you say. I personally, excuse me, I'm just.
No, am I offending you?
Yes, I feel offended.
How?
Okay, I'm going to tell you. That we come here, we spend our time, we have meetings, communications are made in a timely way, and at least appreciate that we have made the effort to communicate to you. You might not have taken advantage of that, but we have made the effort to communicate to you and to the community. Now, we're gonna have an election coming up, and if you don't like what this board has done, you will vote us out.
But I don't
Okay.
get the paper. Will we
Okay,
get the papers?
okay, excuse me?
How do we get this information in the mail?
Yes, you will get a ballot in the
I
mail.
don't have a web. See, we're not all.
Excuse me,
high-tech.
David, if you can come to the office, if you don't get it online, you can ask Kim in the office, she will give you a copy of the minutes. She will give you anything you want to know. There is no secret meeting going on here to hide anything from you.
No, I didn't say
Please
these
trust me
secret
on that.
meetings, did you guys make decisions without really,
Without really what? Without really what? But we have had open
Hey,
meetings here.
Robert, let me run. So, one thing that I have learned by reading through the minutes from meetings 20 years ago and 30 years ago and 40 years ago is this community has worked remarkably well for 50 years.
That's true.
And the fact that we're sitting in this community center, this beautiful building, in this beautiful community center, surrounded by beautifully paved streets and wonderfully mowed lawns, says that something is working very, very well. So regardless of whether you've been here 3 months or 50 years, and I consider people who have been here a month just as important a member of this community as somebody who's been here 50 years. So apparently, all of the not working that you're talking about doesn't seem to hold water. It seems to have worked very well.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't like this $100 raise, besides myself.
Of course, Alice, yeah.
There's no choice.
I'm the
That's
secretary,
what I mean.
and I have charge of trying to get information out, so maybe you're speaking to me. And I can say that the number of different ways we have to try to tell you guys what's going on is huge. There are minutes, you can come to the office, if you're online, you can do that, and I know some people are not online, but the only thing that I can think of doing to satisfy what you want is to go around and knock on everybody's door.
No, you can't do that.
And you can't do that.
You cannot
You can't
do
do that. The people who live here, they have to take some initiative to find out. And
Well, see, I only hear
we
from
try to
word of
make
mouth
it easy.
that you guys raised it $100.
Well, I'm just saying, you have to take the initiative to come here to find out.
So there's a couple more days we can vote or have our say so on this, or it's just automatic, you guys raise it, that's what it is, right? You do what you want. Am I right?
And then you vote a seven.
The thing to keep in mind is that this board sitting up here is not your mother. They don't take care of you. You have to search out the information.
That's quite a way you put that there.
Yeah,
Personal initiative.
it works.
Okay, so can I reiterate, and just so you're clear, because I'm crystal clear on this, they made it clear. We have 4 more days for those of you who do not like the concept of an increase, to go through the CCNR's find
No,
procedure,
bylaw.
bylaws, my apology, and initiate a vote. And they even gave us the deadline, 4 days.
No,
So-
60 days ago, we gave the deadline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was January 14th.
Well, congratulations, I just found out about it today too. I knew there was a way to get a vote, I did not know that the end was coming up, right. So, if you can't go online,
Come in here.
come in here and talk to Kim, she can provide it.
Now, does that mean that, I see, I don't know,
Is it all right?
So, it's such a finish.
Hang on,
When I come in
let me
here-
just say,
when I
one
come
of our
in here and
major
say,
subjects, hang on
How
a
can
second.
I do a vote that says no increase?
One of our major subjects of the agenda on this meeting
agenda.
is to do with increase. And so, why don't we move on to the meeting and discuss the subject of the meeting?
Agenda, board meeting minutes. I don't get that for a simple person I am, you know?
Well, I
Come in there and ask her.
I honestly don't know how to respond to that.
Well, he's kind of said something, I got 4 days to come in here, and what, ask, what's her name here about, I don't agree with the thing, and put my feelings down on a piece of paper, how?
It's a little more complicated than that.
That's what I mean, I don't know, I'm just a simple person.
Yeah. Okay, so you haven't spoken.
I just want to leave a quick statement. My name is Juan Flores. I'm a new resident here in Leilani.
Welcome.
Thank you. At the cost of our own expense, when we moved in, there were things that needed to be done to the house to gain access. It was asked that of the association to help us and to be able to get access to the house. That never happened.
Access in what sense?
There was a big blockade, cement barricade, 2 of them blocking the driveway. So
Oh, you're at 35
our own
miles.
time and
Okay.
money we spent to do it ourselves, because we just couldn't wait anymore. Also, what was done to the house, by boarding up the house too, it's costing us because damages to the house. We bought it as is, which is
Okay.
fine with us, but I just want to leave that and say that as it is,
So you bought it
my
knowing
opinion of the
that
association helping us in any way, I have yet to see it, other than cutting the grass outside of my house, which is.
did you, and I'm not at all wanting to be rude, but.
I know, I'm just
But did
saying
you
my
ask?
feeling right now.
Did you ask for that help? Okay, because I apologize, I never heard it.
Yeah, apparently, most people probably did it.
Huh?
I guess most people did it because I'm actually sharing this with you.
Yeah.
Another thing, I've lived in a gated association before, so I know what it's like. I oppose a gated association of any kind. I think coming together as a community, maybe working towards having more community watch programs in the neighborhood is a lot better solution than just gating and shutting everybody out.
Okay.
I think, in my opinion, it'll help draw everybody together as far as having a community like you talked about in Leilani. Maybe having more meetings and more gatherings and more events to get people together. I think it'll be a good solution rather than just gating it and shutting everybody out.
And so my suggestion, and by the way, my suggestion to all of you at any given moment is get involved. Obviously, you're already a select group because you're at a board meeting. Remember, there's 1,300 people who aren't here tonight. Some of them don't live here. But, and then the other thing is, there are committees you can join. There are neighborhood watch is always looking for volunteers. We've attempted to form 2 separate committees, one of them discussing gates and one of them discussing tourism. And we did get some volunteers for tourism. We didn't get any volunteers for the gate committee. So if those of you who feel strongly about these things, jump right in the fray and get involved. You guys willing to share your salary with some other folks? Yeah, at the end of the day, nobody gets paid anything. We put in dozens of hours every week to keep this community, to the best of our abilities, keep the train on the tracks.
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
I'm Kalani's neighbor, and I should say that he told me, please get rid of the barricade. And so it's my fault that you all don't know about it.
Okay.
And the problem was, the guy who put the barricade up there in the first place was a board member who had his own forklift. And I think that, I don't know if that's the last
He was a
job.
former board member.
Former,
Yeah.
But he died.
Well, I'm just trying to say, right as you asked me, he went into terminal illness, and I was at a loss of how to get it back out there for you. And my hat's off to you for figuring out how to do it.
Well, I'm not looking for any,
But I'm just saying,
any
it
payback
isn't
for
the board
paying a bill.
ignoring you, because access to your home is nature.
Yeah, and I just wanna have a sense that people get.
Yeah. And
The
we tried our
association is doing
hardest
something, I just haven't seen it.
as an association to try to save your home from damage the year and a half before, and it was quite it wasn't money, it was mainly hard work trying to save the house, so.
Jim, you have one more
Feels like
thing.
you're there.
I'm sorry, Alex.
Yeah,
Jim, you have
just
one more.
clarification, especially for those that are new here. If I understand that there's two distinct legal entities. This, the LCA, Leilani Community Association, and then Neighborhood Watch, which is a completely different legal entity. It has its own board, and there's several people in this room right now on the Neighborhood Watch. We welcome participation. If you can either drive or ride your bicycle around the neighborhood 2 hours a week, that's the commitment. And yes, it helps with signage, lights, everything. But it's a different thing than asking these people to take care of it. And if you come to Neighborhood Watch and ask questions, sometimes the answer is that's a board question, the LCA board, not us.
May I ask a question for the
Why don't you leave the neighborhood watch stuff? Yeah, leave that one.
Why is it separate? Why is there such separate?
Oh, Neighborhood Watch is a national organization. It's actually has chapters all over the United States, maybe all over the world, I don't know. And this is and so there's a jurisdiction that the logos are the same the United States over, the way it's handled is, and it's actually works very closely with local police departments.
So the Leilani
Community
Association
Association.
has nothing to do with the neighborhood watch
No,
program?
actually, we're actually.
Depends.
Actually, if you go to both meetings, you'll often see the same people at both meetings.
Thank you.
Yeah, Dane, let Dane go and then you go on. Is that okay? Dane, what do you got? Introduce yourself.
Dane Dupont, Hawaii Tracker, live 1 street away. Question for you. Last time we were here, I asked you about who owned the roads.
Yeah.
Leilani, you said you would inquire to.
Yeah, we have our attorney working on it.
Oh, he's working on it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm going.
Yeah, don't worry, we're spending your money on an attorney.
I was wondering.
Yeah, you bet. Okay, Mark?
Mark Almia, Kaukai Street. Clarification on the good standing on the CCN orders.
Yeah.
Hoping the board or the new board, kind of think about the CCN orders, yeah? Because I think that's very important.
Yeah. So what Mark's referencing is that we made an announcement at the last meeting that we had decided, based upon the advice of our attorney, to go right by the letter of the bylaws. And what the bylaws say very clearly, unambiguously, is that the definition of bad standing / good standing has to do with the non-payment of assessments. And there was a brouhaha in the last election over that question. So we decided to retreat to the bylaws and go by the letter of the bylaws. What Mark's also referring to is the ability of the board to alter those bylaws. So there would be nothing to stop either this board or future boards to redefining the definition of in good standing to be inclusive of a CC&R violation. But at this point in time, because of the non-inclusion of that phrase in the bylaws, we made a decision to go right with the letter of the bylaws for the moment. But I personally, and I think, well, I won't say all of us, I think maybe all of us share your sentiment that the enforcement of the CC&Rs is first of all, it's an obligation of the board. It's not something that the board chooses to do. They're obligated to do to enforce the CC&Rs.
I think most of us, that's the reason why we're moving to Leilani, yeah? And me myself, to have just, non-illegal homes built in here, we're trying to keep them out of here. And I know we see a lot of these buildings in here, structures that are building illegally, and we don't want all these buildings in here, we gotta keep them out of here.
We are going to talk about the CC, Allison and is going to talk about CC&Rs later in the meeting. We actually haven't started the meeting yet. But is that good enough for the moment? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Ross, again.
So now is not a good time to talk about, because I want to talk about CC&R violations.
Yeah, why don't you, would it be all right with you if you heard the body of the meeting and then held that to the end of the meeting?
Most certainly.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Okay. Okay, but hold on, let somebody go ahead. Pete, introduce yourself.
Pete Wilson, where was it? Cowkine Street. The point I'd like to make is that, as I understand it, Leilani Estates pays the smallest amount of dues of any place in eastern Hawaii. If you look at what Hawaii Paradise Park pays, they pay over $395. They don't have paved roads, they don't have mailboxes, they don't have, so think about it, people, you get a lot for a little.
They get nothing for it,
I went to
but
the
our
doctor.
boards have done a great job keeping them at.
I went to the doctor's office today.
Okay, no. Hang on. So Pete.
That's all I'm saying, I just want to put that out because it doesn't seem to be referenced regularly enough to imply that what we're paying is a lot, I'm sorry,
Okay,
it's not.
so again, we are going to talk about the dues increase in the body of the meeting. Is it all right if we let that one? Yeah, no, and I appreciate. Did you have a relevant comment?
Yes, this is a fact. My lungs from this sulfur and this thing going up, it's not healthy. I went to the doctors today. Where do you live? Leilani. The worst air around. That's all. You know what? It's hard enough living here.
I will negate that.
Yeah, hold on. Dane knows more than I, but are you aware of what's sitting out in our
I went to this
parking lot?
volcano.
No, wait, stop. I have a question for you. Are you aware of what's sitting out in our parking lot right now? It's the most sophisticated air monitor that exists in the state of Hawaii. And it's been running now for 5 months.
Okay.
And we have the cleanest air in the Hawaiian Islands right now.
Are you kidding me?
No.
I'm not kidding you, because I can back it up scientifically. Dane, what do you have to say about it?
Right up the street here, there's sulfur, you can see it, the rocks yellow.
That's-
Is that healthy air?
That's
Okay.
steam, it's not sulfur.
We can talk after that.
We've got to get this meeting going, and I apologize to all of you for.
You're 60 or 70% water.
Let's hold on. Okay, so I am going to close the opening questions. Anybody who wants to say few can say few. Phew. So my opening remarks, here we go. Second comic interlude, very quick, I promise. This is from the minutes from a general meeting. Let me tell you what it says. Open discussion. Al Smith objected to going ahead with building any future proposed building in the community center and indicated that many of the members of Leilani Estates would much rather have a swimming pool built before any additional buildings. It says after a lengthy discussion that the board would make a motion initiated by Mr. Argus Johnson for the board of directors to not only build the swimming pool, but to also move ahead with tennis courts, volleyball courts, and other recreational facilities. Chuck Porter seconded the motion, and it was carried, recorded March 27th, 1975. Okay.
So the board's been derelict on the.
Okay.
Buried by the lava.
We have I finally signed the paperwork for our $15,000 grant that we got from the county. When somebody referenced the fact that we will have cameras, money for cameras available, it was given to us by the county, nearly entirely by PGV, gave 150 of the $170,000 of the entire grant. Leilani Estates was granted 15,000 of it. It is specifically earmarked for safety and community crime control. So there will be $15,000 above and beyond our normal funding available for that. So if some of you have ideas about how to add to the safety and control of crime within the community, talk to the board, and we'll have a little money to spend. I was told that all that has to happen is go to the mayor's office to be signed, and they said they didn't think it would have any problem getting out of the mayor's office in less than 2 months.
Light speed.
As my witness. Secondly, we are going to be moving ahead with some infrastructure improvements. We've been spending a lot of time getting bids from various vendors on some painting work that needs to be done, on some metal repairs that need to be done, to do the initial repairs on the pavilion to make it safe so it doesn't blow over as was concerned. I've been holding my breath the last couple of days that our pavilion would still be there in the morning, and it still is. The anchor bolts are pretty badly damaged, but we're going to have a welder come in and do that work. The quotes are coming in at significantly lower than we originally thought they would be, and obviously all of those numbers will be made public before we move ahead with any of it. Next thing is we are talking to 4 companies about doing a reserve study. For those of you who don't know what a reserve study is, it's a study that's done based upon a great deal of information that I won't go into right now. But what these companies do is they come back and tell you how much money you should have in the bank, so to be able to absorb unexpected expenses. So what we're hoping to do is to rebuild the reserve. The reserves have been depleted over the course of the last, since the eruption, by an amount of about $110,000. If we keep on that track, obviously, it would not be a good one, but we are going to explore the idea of doing a reserve study so the professionals tell us how much money we should have in the bank at any given moment to move forward safely. I already stole my own thunder on the air monitor, but the air monitor is going to remain in that spot for another several months. They thought they'd be out of here by now, but when they got the bid to move it out to, this is the state, by the way, I'm speaking of, to move it out by the cell tower, the bid came in at $63,000 to move it out there, and if it's well, they have to run a new electrical service, they have to build fencing, they have to put in foundation, there's things they have to do. It doesn't sound unreasonable, but anyway, but it's not our money. It's just, I guess it is our money, it's state money. But because it's over $50,000, they have to go through a much more sophisticated bidding process. So we have negotiated that both retroactively and moving forward, that the state will be paying 100% of Leilani Estates' electric bill during the time that they're over there. So, Russ, we're going to hold on.
That's on the, because I saw on the P&L that the rent, the expenses on the pavilion had gone up quite a bit, and that was electricity, so that
Yeah.
was for that. But I
Yes,
didn't
sir.
see anywhere where there was a credit, so we.
Yeah, no, what they did was they put money on deposit with Telco on our account.
So on the P and L where it shows the expenses that have been drastically going up.
Hopefully
like
next,
200 a month.
hopefully
plus.
next month it'll reflect the credit.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was just.
Yeah, okay, thanks. There's a whole bunch of wonderful things that nearly every board member's going to share tonight. I will tell you one more thing though, and you're welcome to look at it. The board went to work, the board with two particular volunteers in addition to the board, went to work on December the 26th while Kim was on vacation, and we gutted the entire office, not gutted, we took everything out of the entire office, we repainted it, we cleaned it within an inch of its life, we bought a new cabinet, few other things. People put in hours. This team and the other two volunteers, who I will honor them right now. Jay Travasky was there working every single day, and Pam Andrews was there working nearly every single day. So through an incredible community effort, the office is sparkling clean, and when Kim came back, she wasn't too mad. And so, but suffice to say, congratulations to the board and the volunteers. And I think that's all I have. So we are going to start. Item number 1 is the election coming up, and as you all know, the time to put your name in for running for the election has now passed, and Alice is going to give us the update on that.
Thank you, Andy. Well, I have very good news. There are 11 nominees running, which is way better than 6. And that, the other thing is that given that we are honoring nominations that come through in the mail that have been postmarked on the 2nd of January, they still might not have come in. So possibly we'll be telling you that we might add a name or two, because we hear that someone thought about it, but we don't know for sure. So this might not be a complete list. But I'll just read it to you. And do we have handouts if you want at the end?
At the end, yeah.
So if you want to like study it after you leave here, we'll put a little pile of them up there. And there are, this year for the first time and the only time, there will be some members running for 2-year positions and some running for 1-year positions. So I had to just separate those. So for the 2-year positions.
Alice, why don't you let that one lay until Robert does his commentary?
Yeah, I was going to say that. He's going to tell you that some little nuances of this, but I'm just lumping them together here for you. Andy Andrews, Cheryl Kopp, and Alice Lindahl. So those are the only 2-year nominees. And 1-year nominees, and I hope I don't butcher this guy's name, Brian Bucciarelli, Cheryl Farrell, Philip Denny, Mary Ann Farrell, Robert Golden, Daryl Singleton, Patty Hasistafarakis, and Jay Trukowski. So I want to thank everybody who's gallantly stepped forward, because it's not an easy job, but it can be very rewarding at moments.
If you're a safe masochist.
And so to stepping up to the board is a very honorable thing to do when you're in a volunteer organization. So I'd like to ask the folks, is Brian Bucciarelli here tonight? Okay. Cheryl Carroll here attending the board meeting tonight? Okay. Phil Denny, are you here? Here's Phil. Let's have a hand for Phil. Mary Ann Farrell. Mary Ann, stand up and let everybody see you. And Jay Travasky. Jay, why don't you stand up and And then the other names are seated here in front of you. So congratulations to everybody stepping up to help out. For those of you who have been on the board in the past or are on the board in the present, you know that when you do get seated on the board, we issue a target and you get to wear it on your back. Okay, Alice, what else do you have?
How many people are there going to be on the 2-year terms and the 1-year terms?
Why don't you wait for clarification on that?
Yes, Robert has some governance information that you guys all need to hear about that. So he'll come in a few minutes if I can talk fast. The date of the election is the third Saturday in March, and that makes it March 21st. I think it was the 20th, but I don't know my calendar. It's the 21st. And the reason for this is lost in the far distant past, because the bylaw said it was going to be the fourth Monday in January. Now, lost in the distant past is the fact that it's always been on the fourth Saturday of March, as far as anyone living knows. But Andy worked his way through what we call the cockroach files, which is really far back in the non-air conditioned office, and he found all kinds of stuff in there. And we don't want to rag on these people too bad, because they didn't have computers and stuff back in the 70s, and they did their best to file things, but it was tough. And so he discovered where the votes were made to change these times, and he actually has dates. He'd make a good historian. I got so sick of the cockroaches, I couldn't. So in 1995, one of the boards got the idea that they should change the rules, and they voted for it. And their policy was. We talked about it, but nowhere do we see that they actually changed it in the real bylaws. So our attorney advises us, well, it's really good to have it match. So we're doing it right, and on the back of your agenda today, you see the new bylaw compared to the old bylaw, and it just changes the date. And we cannot make the motion to change the bylaw today, because the membership needs a month to see, what we're doing and what they might like or not like about it. And so this will be voted on at the next meeting in February 14th.
It's on the back side of your.
So all it is change the date, change the.
And also I will add that the furthest back that I could find of any minutes at all, and I got some of it from Alan Okamoto, who was our attorney in the 80s, who is still quite alive and quite well and still practicing law, and just a wonderful guy. Well, he actually dug through archives that he hadn't looked at, he said, in 30 years. And the oldest record he could put his hands on was March of 1973, but the meeting also took place on the third Saturday in March. And I worked through Alan Okamoto and Ray Asagawa, and everything indicates that the meeting has taken place on the third Saturday in March. So apparently, the change must have taken place between 1969 and 1974, and those annals are lost. They're gone. Nobody knows anything about where they might be. So as Alice said, we are in fact going to change the bylaw to reflect the last 46 years of activity.
And the same is true of the number of board of directors members. And the bylaws say that you cannot have fewer than 3 nor more than 7. And this was written at a time when this was a wilderness and there was a little farm here and there. But it seems like very early on in the history of Leilani, they wanted 7. They didn't like the idea was 6 years ago, and he said they had 7 then. And I know some years they haven't had 7 applicants, but since the bylaws say up to 7, we thought it would be a good idea to ratify the decision of the Board of Directors 46 years ago and make a motion to have up to 7, and or at least for this particular election, we'll have that. And I wrote out a little, I wrote out a little motion. And I would recommend, based on what Andy's found and what I found, that we ratify the decision of the Board of Directors 46 years ago to elect up to 7 members for this election and for future elections. And I so move.
And not less than
3.
Not less than 3.
Yeah, so let me read you, again, March 27th, 1975. If anybody knows any of these names, say so. Rose Marie Carlson, Paul Ellis, Jean Kubera, Christopher Roerig, Virgil Stolf, Al Schroeder, and Peter Shane. That was the 7-person board of directors at the general meeting on March the 27th, 1975. So at some point between 1969, when the developers wrote the Articles of Incorporation, and March 27th of 1975, it had already transitioned to 7 directors. So Alice has made a motion to ratify the 46-year
reality.
Thank you. The fact that there have been 7 directors. Do we have a second for that ratification?
Second.
Okay, so Darrell, seconded by Darrell, and I'll call for a vote. We can do it by a show of hands to ratify the fact that the 7 members on the board of directors will in fact remain, has been for over 46 years and will remain such moving forward. Show of hands. So passes unanimously. Okay. Okay, Alice?
Some people think it's frivolous, but our attorney, Wilson Ashita, he really likes to have us vote on stuff, so that's one of the reasons for voting.
Okay, Alice, you have anything else?
Let's see, there will be a candidate forum. It's not run by the board or LCA proper. It's run by, as it was last year, just a member who thought they'd like to meet the candidates. And so that person is gathering together a committee, and she, there's no date yet, but she just thought about doing it just in these last few days. But there will be one, and probably be kind of like it was last time. But we'll give you the details, and everybody will get the usual communication methods of finding out that. And another secretarial duty I have is the house plans pickup. Those of you who've been watching our information flow know that you can get your house plans. In fact, you can get your entire envelope that has the architectural plans for your home.
If your house is less than 7 years
If your house is more than 7
7
years.
years.
More than 7. And some of them are really big, fat, expensive looking things. They're things of great beauty. I hope you will pick them up. And all you have to do is come here, and Kim will help you find them.
And they'll be destroyed.
And they will be shredded afterwards.
They'll be taken to Hawaii Business Services and shredded. So there were some objections to us getting rid of those house plans. So let me read you once again, going back into the annals of history. Special meeting of the Board of Directors held November the 12th, 1997. It was resolved, motion made by Heather Hedenshaw that during, oh no, that's about the police, sorry.
The disruption.
Starting over. Resolution passed at a meeting of the Board of Directors, May 6, 1996. Motion was made to amend the rules and to return all the building plans to the owners upon request immediately following a final inspection and permit issued by the county. Motion was made by Lash, seconded by Hedenshaw. Motion was carried. So in actuality, we should have been returning the plans since May the 6th, 1996. So for those of you who thought we shouldn't be doing that, we're simply acting on a 24-year-old board resolution. Okay. And so the date is January 31st, is that correct, Alice? Do people have to pick up those plans?
Yes.
And for those of you, if you know anybody who lives not here and wants them mailed, we will mail them for $10 in a priority mail envelope, or we use an address. And we will bill that person's LCA account for $10. Hold your questions till the end.
I got a little bit out of line, Robert is next.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just running
So,
out.
so just to give Robert a little lead-in, we passed a bylaws change at our last meeting that had to do with 2-year terms, moving into 2-year terms, and in reviewing it within the board, we realized we had a problem with it, and so Robert's going to expand on that.
So we asked, the problem is that there's an ambiguity that people were given the option to run for 2-year terms or 1-year terms. And I think it was stated that we have three 2-year terms and 4 1-year terms. But that could possibly result, as Cheryl pointed out to us, that could possibly result in people being elected to the board who don't have the highest number of votes.
Result in what?
That could possibly result, if we fill the positions by the criteria that you're either running for a 2-year term or a 1-year term, to fill those spots that way, people could in fact be elected to the board who don't necessarily have the top seven vote receivers. Am I being clear about that? That if the criteria is just to fill those slots either for a 3-year, 3 people for a 2-year position or 4 people for a 1-year position, then you're not necessarily looking at the highest vote getters. Okay? I was told that we could write a commentary on that procedure because it was our intention that the top 7 vote getters should be on the board, regardless of whether or not they wanted a 1-year position or a 2-year position. That we felt it was only fair that the community, that we listened to the community, and we put on the board the top 7 vote getters.
Robert, as required by the bylaw.
Okay, so I wrote this commentary that our attorney said is fine. I'll read it to you. I assume we're going to vote on this commentary? Angie?
I don't think we need it.
Okay, anyway, this is the commentary. The goal of the change in the bylaws regarding the election of the board of directors was to create staggered 2-year terms, with 3 positions being filled on odd years and 4 positions being filled on even years. As all positions on the board are up to the election, or up for election in 2020, we created 2 options. Candidates could opt for 1 or 2-year terms. There will be 3 openings for a 2-year term and 4 openings for a 1-year term. If we just strictly went by their requirements to fill those positions, then it is possible that not all of the 7 candidates that receive the highest votes would become a director. To rectify the situation, only, and I repeat, only the candidates who receive the highest number of votes will become the director, will become a director. And the new board will do its best to arrange the terms of office so that there is an array of those who are serving for 2-year terms and others who are serving for 1 year. Again, the goal is to create staggered elections in the future for 2-year terms. That's what we're aiming to create, and that'll be the obligation of the newly elected board to meet that goal. Okay? And so I'll leave it at that. Any questions?
Well, what are you going to do?
I'm just gonna say it right now, it sounds confusing, and I think it should stay the same. And I think, and basically what it sets up is you guys get to pick who is gonna be 2 years, and you get to dictate who's gonna be 2 years and who's gonna be 1 year. I don't think.
That's the normal way that when a board seats every year, you all decide.
Yeah, they can
after
figure
the
that,
board-
but
Okay.
it's, I don't know.
Chris, we're not doing Christoph right now. Hang on. So, the bylaw's already passed.
Right.
The bylaw's already passed. It's water under the bridge. The only way that we could change that now is to vote for a new bylaw that undoes the other bylaw. So whether you feel that way or not, at this point in time, that bylaw has passed. So we are now subject to that bylaw. What Robert did was realize that it created the potential for the conflict with another bylaw, which clearly says the 7 top vote getters will be seated on the board. So there is the potential for a little figuring it out on this first one. So, and on the advisement of our attorney, we are going to move forward with the commentary as written, and we are going to move forward with the bylaw as written. The bylaw addresses what happens when we finally do get to the point that there's 4 people being elected 1 year and 3 people being elected in the alternate year. What we realize may happen is instead of getting to that formula in 1 year, it may take us 2 or 3 years to get to that formula. And there's not a lot of discussion available around it right now. If you would hold your comments to the end of the meeting, it would really be appreciated.
Just speak to the intention of that, because you guys suffered through that effect of not having continuity through the years.
Yeah.
So there's an intention behind it.
Apparently based upon so apparently speaking with Alan Okamoto and Ray Hasakawa, they tell us that this board has the distinction, Robert, of being the only board that 7 brand new board members ended up on the board. Never before has there not been some transitional member of the board. We got dealt that card, but the decision was very much felt by everyone on this board, if I misspeak please, that we don't ever want to see another board have to go through that ever again. So anyway, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
So it's quite likely that, let's say, the 3 people who are running for the 2-year positions, say 2 of them don't get it, and only 1 of them does. Well, it still meets our goal of having some overlap. That person who, there. And if it doesn't work the first time, we'll just try it again.
So does that mean that you would only have maybe 1 that would be a 2-year and the rest?
Yeah, and we just live with it and then try to.
So you're saying it's a legal thing, because in the past, haven't you all, after the election is announced, you go into executive meeting and y'all decide, it's not the homeowners who decide, the board decides who's going to be in what position.
The board
So you can't do that now?
The board members have already declared that they either want to run for a 2-year or a 1-year position. They will not have the option of changing their mind on that at that meeting. So if we elect 5 people who have all chosen 1 year and 2 people who chose 2 year, then that's the way it will.
So it'll be the most votes.
But it will be the 7 people who get the most votes. Absolutely, it will follow that formula.
And that, it should be the most
Correct.
votes, period.
Okay, so anyway, Robert, thank you for the commentary. Nice job.
Okay.
I will say to congratulate Robert. Robert did 1 draft at it, and we sent it off to the attorney, and he got back a letter from the attorney that simply said, "Great job." So
I just really wish there was more trust in this room. That the people who are elected by the, take the 7 highest vote getters to sit on the board of directors, and that there be some trust in the wisdom of that 7, that they will think in the best interest of this community. And in fact, and this is, I disagree with you, Andy. In fact, because I said I'd be for one-year term, and if I for some reason got elected, and I saw there wasn't an equal distribution, or maybe I would sit there for a 2nd year. But I'd let the board, have to have some, I guess, it's very hard to sit here, and not feel that the community trusts you. It's very difficult.
Well, that was because this year we didn't do that. We didn't follow the highest number of votes. So that's the only reason there's a question about it. I have no problem with the board, once they sit in the executive meeting, deciding who is in what. If you can't do that.
But wait a second,
that's okay.
I wasn't on the board when I was elected. What didn't follow the highest number of votes? That's absolute news to me.
No,
but it's true.
What he's talking about is we, took applications to fill the seats.
But that's after people, because that's after people.
That was after we were.
That's after people.
That was in the
That was
first
after-
30 days.
But Russ, let's correct your statement though. The 7 people who were seated on the board at the election were the 7 highest vote getters. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Within the first 30 days, people started to drop off. And so the next person in
I'll tell you
line
this.
was asked.
No, that's not what the bylaws say, Russ.
Well,
Russ, you know you're reopening a can of worms.
No.
That is exactly what Robert was just discussing. There's constant distrust. There's a couple of 3 people in this room who for some reason operate in a great aura of distrust. And instead of just simply being able to say, you know what, we're taking our best shot here. We don't have secret meetings where we figure out how to screw you guys. We actually bust our asses to try to keep this community running and keep it from going broke and keep the roads mowed and so I will absolutely support Robert in what he said is, for God's sakes, have a little faith, and if you think we're jerks and doing a bad job, vote us off.
I do have a lot of faith, but even in your own words, you said that you didn't want to be on that side. You wanted to be here and throw it off. I'm just asking questions.
I said a lot of things. I said I was never going to have children.
Can I clarify something real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. The reason why we had the first person leave is because we said the word audit. I don't want to tell you that right now. We asked for it, and boom, we lost our first guy.
Chris, hold on. Chris, what you're revealing is executive session. That you're revealing executive session discussions, which absolutely are.
What? Oh, what?
Which absolutely are not permitted.
Which detail am I talking about?
You need to decide as a former board member whether you want to keep going here or not.
You need to talk to the attorney about how certain people run it and why they were asked to resign the first time. And is it a good idea if they run again? You need to talk to Lincoln Ashita and ask him what he thinks of it. Okay? All right. That's what I'm gonna say.
Okay, Robert, thank you for that commentary. Okay, the next thing that we're moving along with is, where were we? House plans, we already dealt with that. We talked about the, Patty, here we go, wait a second, hold on.
You guys missed me.
Oh, we missed you? Oh, treasurer's report, Cheryl's down.
Money doesn't matter.
By the way, I will tell you, as long as this thing's getting as out of control as it is, Cheryl puts in more hours than all of us. Let's hear it for Cheryl.
Cheryl's like an angel.
Because she feeds me all that wicked ale. Anyway, the only update I have this week is that we're working on signing a contract with the debt collector, and hopefully that will take place next week, and he will start collecting debts on all of our accounts that are in arrears. So we've got a bundle of them that are in arrears, so that's going to be really good. So that's really all I have.
Thank you, Cheryl.
That was easy.
It's good to have a subject that nobody disagrees with. Okay, hang on a second. Hang on. Cheryl wrote it out for me.
Oh, Patty's name.
Yeah. No, I'm taking this seriously. Okay. Patty. Haxted Skaraskas.
Pretty
close.
Not even close? Has a report for, that I'll let her talk about.
Thank you very much. All right.
Whoa.
Sorry, the wind did it.
So a little bit off of,
woke me up.
So this is a little bit off of what our normal topics are, but I just wanted to bring up a research project that I'm going to be embarking on this year, that I'm really asking for all community support and input in. I'm a KES student, a kinesiology student, majoring in health promotion at the University of Hawaii, Hilo. And I'm going to be working on a research project looking at the health effects or potential health effects that we have seen in this community and the greater Big Island community as a result of the 2018 eruption. And so I'm going to start the year off looking at some reports that have been generated, even Dane's catchment water, things like that, just to really get an understanding of what happened here, what had spewed out of the volcano, what might be lingering in our water, in our ground, just different things. And so I want to see exactly what's going on there. Then I want to work with the medical community to see what effects could be happening as a result of those hazards that might have come out of the volcano, things that we've experienced. And so that's why I'm opening it up to the entire Big Island community, because we all have been affected in some way, some more than others. And I also don't think that this has really been looked at, especially those of us living here in Leilani. So I thought it was really important. So the second piece of this, which is going to be coming over this the summer, that's when I'm looking for community involvement. If you or someone that you know has had any kind of respiratory issues, skin condition, PTSD, anything mental that might be going on, I just would like you to reach out to me. I set up a Gmail account. Just give me your name and maybe why you think you might be part of maybe a good part of the study. And then I'm going to do a screening survey to really weed out everyone to see exactly where everybody's located. At that point, we're going to do some interviews, some focus groups, some other online surveys, just to really get to the meat of that. And then I'll take it all back, do the analysis, and then hopefully by the end of the year get some information not only back out to the community, but also try to work with some of our community partners to actually make some headway in whatever area might be most affected, where we can really help the community. We need health, we need our mental health, our physical health, and so this is something that I just really want to look at. So I left some paperwork over by the door. It has my contact information, a little bit more information about the research project itself. And so like I said, if anybody's interested in giving me your opinion and your experience, I would be more than happy to work with you. I love it. So thank you.
Thank you, Patty. And let's really support Patty in this project as far as getting her the data she needs from our community. Another interlude, a short one. Reading from the President's letter. It is again time to say mahalo to the many people who cast their votes in this year's election. Our meeting last year was very satisfying because it was the largest group I have seen since I lived here in Leilani for 12 years. All the seats were filled and people were standing outside. It takes this kind of participation on the part of the members of this community to make our job on the board more gratifying, knowing that we are doing the best for our members. As you all know, Leilani Estates is the most active development in one of the neatest developments, and this is brought to you by the continuous work of your board of directors, by the involvement of the community, and by the promptness of your dues payments. We have been very fortunate in Leilani Estates to escape all of the disaster caused by the fires and the volcanic eruption here on the island. Signed, David Hess, President, June 1983. I love this stuff. I love thinking about the fact that 40 years ago, there was people sitting in this room running this community with the same good hearts and the same kind energy that's happening right now. Okay, the Kahutai isolated homes. So we sent a letter. There are 15 properties down there that are not covered by lava. We had our attorney send a letter to all 15 of those property owners, asking them to please get back to us, first and foremost with better contact information, emails mostly, but then also saying to them, please give us feedback on what you would like to do, and what are your thoughts, and what are your plans, and how do you see this going forward, and are you wanting the road reopened? Are you? To date, we have not heard back from any one of those 15 people. We sent that letter out 2.5 weeks ago. We're still waiting, obviously, maybe we will. We did get a note today from Mr. David Jarman saying that he, in fact, does have the money together to pay for the road himself to do it, and we referred that. Oh, he also said that he has retained an attorney. I didn't use the word retain. He said we now have an attorney, and we passed that letter on to the LCA attorney, Lincoln Ishida, who is again making contact with Mr. Jarman. So it appears that there's progress being made. The next thing is passing it on to, the board has decided that the time has come to begin seriously thinking about repairing Moco and Capona Street. We have a pretty good assessment that the temperatures are down far enough now that we can move ahead on it. And we feel that both partly because of the danger of those streets the way they exist right now. Obviously, it was just luck that the woman who crashed the other day wasn't killed. And just the responsibility of the board to keep the streets repaired for the community. We've decided to begin the process of moving ahead towards those repairs. And we do have a task force on road repairs that consists of Robin Stetson and Cheryl Kaut and Jay Tervosky. Jay is probably as much as anybody in this community knows about our roads and has stayed really on top of this. So Jay has very generously offered to step up and begin the process of beginning the process of getting those roads repaired. So Jay, what do you got for us?
Well, I've identified 2 engineering firms. After discussion with our group, we've determined our best course of action will be to prepare a technical document relative to exactly how it should be, so when we go out to contractors for bids, that we get uniform return on it. One company doesn't bid one way and another. We know specifically it needs to be this wide, this thick, done this way. And I know a little about road work, but not enough that I'm going to author that document alone. I have contacted both firms. One firm I have had a return call from, and have actually sent them some pictures and an outline of what we want to see, which will hopefully begin with them coming out and we show them what needs to be done. And then they can see, well, we need this kind of treatment on Capono, we need this kind on Moku, and so on. The second firm has not returned my call yet.
By the way, Jay, that second firm is the ones we got the bids for on the pavilion.
Is that right? Okay.
Engineering department.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know, all right. We're gonna look at this point, since we're looking at involving 3 or 4 paving companies for quotations, we're gonna divide our roadways work into 2 sections. One being the Moku, Capono, and a little on Malama at the top, and the other being Malama at the other end, and the side streets.
Can you explain the Malama, what do you mean by Malama on the other end of the side streets? I don't know. What is
The upper part, Pomaikai up,
Oh, got it.
upper Malama, for one, the elevation's a hair high.
Right.
After you get far enough up. It's riddled with cracks and a few offsets, and most of the side streets are, some are starting to grow grass. Many of the cracks are not serious enough that they're gonna take anything more than just some hot tar. But it does need to be treated, because as soon as the grass grows, the pavement starts to die. So, the objective is to have the two projects both quoted as individual projects, plus a, shall we say, secondary quote that if the same company got both, would we get a discount because they brought their equipment in and did both at the same time. So we'll just see how that goes. So that's where we're at. It's a long, slow process. The response I got today from the first company is that we'll be looking at your situation probably starting middle of next week. So we're in a hurry, but we're not going to get there very fast. I'll keep you updated every month.
So a big thanks to Jay for the work he's done with us. A really appropriate closing, Alice Lindell is going to put on a different hat and become the chair of the Seekers Committee. And I happen to know, without stealing Alice's thunder, she's going to tell us who's in jail tonight.
I'm going to start clapping right now.
If you want some drama, come right up to Miley Street and hang out for a couple hours. That's what it's gonna take. I actually have, my report was gonna be much shorter, but a whole bunch of stuff came down just yesterday, and so I'll leave that to the end. And I decided not ever again to talk about crime in the thing. It's just kind of a downer. I'll stick it up in the middle of the page later on. But the big thing that was happening this month, and it really involved all of you guys, and that is a new property owner bought a home on Leilani Avenue. I was hoping he would come here tonight, but I don't see any familiar faces, so I guess he's not going to make it. But as a welcome gesture from Leilani Estates, immediately both of his cars were stolen. Out of his driveway, right in front of his house. His gate was locked, and they did the bolt cutter thing, and got first they took. And I'm not using his name because I didn't ask permission to tell you the story, but this is too amazing. First he took the little orange car, and the person took the little orange car, and then the next time he came and saw that the orange car was gone, he asked for help to try to find it and stuff. And lo and behold, one morning the orange car came back, but it didn't work anymore. And it was completely trashed. And he said that car only worked for 15 minutes. And so the thief could only drive it 15 minutes to get somewhere. And somehow they got it back. So that's the kind of cute part, because it gets worse. And then he stole his Subaru Forester. And he was out of town at that point, gathering his family together to come to their new home and their furniture and stuff like that. So the person stole his Forester, which you're very attached to. So his real estate agent, who had sold him this house, took it upon himself to find the perp. And so using the license number, he spotted it in on Miley Street, across the street from me. And the same guy who's been giving us, grief, and I guess all you know his name, so maybe I don't even have to be too worried about that. So he's driving the car, and so the real estate agent chases him and loses him. And so the real estate agent tells the cops come zipping over, and it turns out the car had been spray painted with cheap paint from the dime store, white. So it wasn't bright blue anymore, so it wasn't as identifiable. But the real estate agent has been having it for a long time. And so they discovered that Sione Cepeda was driving the car. And so they looked it up on the, they went to tell, the cops looked it up, as they always do, and they discovered that Sione had the title to the car. Because he had forged a letter of sale from the new guy, and the car now actually officially, legally belonged to Sione. And so he added another level of crime onto the title. But they still couldn't catch him. He was dripping all over, and he left the license plate on there. And there were many police chases, and I hope nobody got hurt over the last few weeks. And it took 3 weeks to actually corner him and get the car back. He got out of the car and ran away, and the inside of the car was completely trashed. Completely trashed. And so he just picked it up today, and it's the white, yeah, white, it's not this one. So I felt so bad for this guy. I said, please come to the board meeting and we'll welcome you and show you that there are some nice people here.
Is this before or after Big Island's Most Wanted?
It was jury.
I mean, they had to make a show about him, you know?
Yeah.
And meanwhile, they know exactly where he's at.
Okay. And so then today, and this lovely person, John Brisky, sends me a report every month. And so I'm going to read you the first part of the thing, but the great stuff happened.
John Brisky is the captain of the Fahoa Police Department.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the Leilani part of crime. In the month of December, there was one assault in Leilani on Kahukai Street. And I hadn't heard, you know, they don't give any details, but that was a call and, you know, they arrested somebody. There was one burglary on Pupono Street.
We happen to know that assault was in section 1 above, way up at the top of the
I didn't know that. Okay.
And it was a domestic dispute.
Right, somebody got hurt. And the Pupono Street, there was a theft and a burglary, and I think I heard something about that, but I don't know any details. But,
South or north?
they don't tell me. They don't tell me. I think they don't want us to get involved too much. And for the whole month, they were looking for Sione Cepeda. So here's the new things. A group of policemen, and I happened to drive by when it was happening yesterday, brought 5 SWAT cars, and they parked away from the thing, and Sione runs off through the woods. And so they came on the 6th of January, the 5th of January, and he ran off in the woods and they couldn't find him. And then they came on the 6th of January, ran off in the woods and they couldn't find him. And then the officers like spread out and figured out where he had run before. So on the 8th, which was only yesterday, they apprehended him and arrested him. And he is being hauled in for the theft and forgery and the trashing of the cars, and along with, I can't even.
A $2,500 bench warrant and a $600 bench warrant.
Right, and we hope this means he will stay longer than overnight.
I can add to that, I saw the police release late this afternoon. He has been, I don't know whether it's the arraignment or not, but it's for $553,000.
The
Well, that's for,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
That's the number here.
That's good. So, yeah.
You've been driving on your
For those of you who don't know, this house that Alice is talking about is considered by many of us the epicenter of crime in Leilani Estate. This is the single sleaziest, most despicable person who probably lives in this community, who has ripped off homes, dealt drugs, stolen cars, and generally terrorized the people on Miley Street. So the fact that this man is in jail tonight is, to me anyway, very good news.
And now that he's not there, we can send the county people who are going to be evaluating the trashy mess that he's made of the place where he lives, and get to work on having that removed from, how do they hold those down? So this will be just an opportunity to go forward with
So
that
that's
nuisance
happening?
case. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, wow.
here's the nuisance case, we talked about this a few, months back. The problem was the prosecutor's office had to take all of their, attorneys and direct them towards the problem of the TNT, standoff up there in the mountain. So not only were all the police up there, there were all the guys who were helping with
They
everything.
probably should search that place high and low, because there's probably tons of stolen goods in there.
Yeah,
Because,
undercharged.
Because, that's, I mean, when I had the police go in and I had to literally demand them go in there and do a search just to go get my, Adam's, property that I saw.
Okay, so I misspoke a little bit earlier when I said Cheryl puts in more hours than all of us. Alice ties to it.
So I'm hoping you hear a whole lot more progress with secret, and we do have those people behind us there in the prosecutor's office.
Oh, and in fact, that's an important thing. John Brisky said today in the email he sent to Alice and me, he said, it never hurts to call the prosecutor's office. So we have the phone number. Any of you who want to put a call in and say, we'd like to see this guy go down for a bunch of time, it can't hurt. Can't hurt. Go on. I'm sorry, Alice.
Nope, that's it.
So that's the end of our agenda. And we made it through, and we are going to reopen this room for as much controversy as you guys want to create. So, Jim, why don't you start us out?
I've got 4 clarification questions.
Yes, sir.
Do we have a report, Alice, on Captain Starbuck? Any news there?
I haven't heard any news about Starbuck. Is he back?
He's back, oh yeah.
Shoot.
No, I If anyone would like to, I don't think there'd be any, Alice and I meet with John Brisky periodically, not regularly, but I don't think there'd be any, if you'd like to submit questions that we could take with us, he answers them absolutely to the best of his ability.
Some of them's been going in.
He's back. He's
Yeah.
been good. He's been back more than a month.
Okay.
If you would email me, and give me that, I would like to keep track of where those people are. And some of them are associated with Leilani, but some of them are not.
And you're always welcome to send emails to bod@leilaniestates.org, but then put this one's for Alice, or this one's for Darrell, whatever it may be. Okay?
With regard to the repaving or possible repaving up here in Capona, and based on these other comments about the accident, the speeding, can we at the same time in doing that discuss putting speed bumps on Capona?
You better keep them on those, because,
We can always discuss it, yes. The short answer is yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Have you studied, could that possibly lead to grants?
Absolutely.
Okay, that would be great. And then finally, for Cheryl, last month, I think there was some commentary about the government, I can't remember who, had extended and extended and extended, and we have to take this money, several $100,000, if we're going to by February.
February.
Do we have a report, an update on that?
We haven't decided whether we're taking it or not yet, but we still have time.
Is there a board meeting?
Yes, there is a board meeting
Yes.
prior to
Prior
that
to-
date.
prior to-
Yes, sir.
Those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have anything they want to discuss? Introduce yourself.
Smiley Burrows at Roncula Street, and I just wanted to touch base regarding the Kaikapuka. Had a really great talk with Alice earlier this week. I did speak with one of the residents of the Kapuka today that, of course, I don't think there is quite unification in decisions of certain, fixing roads and paying it for themselves. But
Can you tell us who you spoke to?
today I spoke with Steve.
Okay.
He said one of Mike Powers would be pressing here tonight, but he
Mike
wasn't.
Powers,
But
Mike Powers,
I
yeah.
don't think he made it. But I explained to them they needed to gather as many of their members together to sign a statement explaining their intentions and what they want. and to give it to the association, so he said he would work on.
Did he receive the letter that was sent from the
I
attorney?
didn't, that's, you know,
Okay.
he didn't say that he got any kind of letter.
Okay.
He said that they had done a conference call amongst some of the residents, but, so I very clearly explained to him that you guys need to get together and sign a paper that will help the
Well, what they need to
association.
do is to get with our attorney.
Yeah.
We're having everything go through the attorney.
Yes, so,
Thanks, Marla.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel really welcome getting,
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything tonight? Pete?
I'd just like clarification on, you said that there were 15 houses that were related.
15 lots.
15 lots.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but
Six
on the Kapuka itself, there's only like 6.
No, there's 15 lots.
There's actually
Yes, sir.
15 lots. but
15 lots, 6 houses.
6 homes.
Homes
Yes, sir.
intact.
Okay.
And then.
But again,
figured out that.
remember that to the LCA and the Board of Directors, everything's a lot. Whether your place has a home or not, doesn't change your import to the LCA. Even if you have a fancy house. Russ, sorry.
Okay, as regards to the board, like you said, that we don't trust you.
No.
I do, okay?
Good.
And all I want for this entire neighborhood is for us all to be on the same page. I don't want the separation, I don't want groups here and there and everybody kind of doing their own thing. So, one of the things that I want to point out as a disappointment this holiday season, to me personally, was the lack of no lights on the community center, no tree, no cheer. I mean, it's always been something that really just, we're better. That's why I moved to this neighborhood. It's always looked better. We have good CCNRs. Everything about it is, and I want to get back to normal to where it was the same. So I was kind of disappointed that that didn't happen. Neighborhood Watch really tried to make the dinner especially good. We went out and did extra decorations and did what we could to try and make it welcoming for everybody. And it's one neighborhood. So without, to me, it felt like there wasn't a lot of holiday cheer put forth in the neighborhood. So the question I had, did our paid employees get a holiday bonus this year?
No, sir.
No?
No, they did not.
Just check.
Yeah, they have in the past. Yeah.
They have it in the past. It's always been kind of customary that they got some type of bonus. I was just wondering, because it just looked like there was no holiday cheer to me. And so then, with regards to CCNRs, that's always been one of my things. That's one of the things that I ran on, and it didn't work. But one of the reasons I bought in this neighborhood was we had good CCNRs. They're not horrible, but they're good to keep it better. So I always felt that Leilani was better than HBP, Inaloa, Orchid Land, all these other places, because there was some uniformity. We looked good. But I don't think there's been any action, and I don't know, I'm not on the board. So I'm just guessing that there's been no action on CCNRs all year, that there's been no fines. And I'm in agreement.
Okay, let me stop you right there. When have there ever been fines? Because I went through 22 years of records and I never found a single CCNR fine that's been administered in the last 22 years.
I don't know.
Okay.
There's a procedure for it.
I just want to know.
I know there was a procedure for it.
No,
but
there was no procedure for it.
Loose dogs is on.
Yeah, there was no procedure for fines, nor were there ever fines.
What about those 10 feet from the roads into the property? Is that under CCRs or is that a Bible thing?
I don't understand the question.
The apron.
Apron. You mean the concrete apron that?
Fines for lack of apron.
The concrete apron is defined as being 12 foot wide and 4 feet, not 10 feet.
Have there been fines? It was a simple question, you don't have to do research on.
You can't find them.
There have never been fines. There have never been.
Just notices.
No, here, from the 1983 meeting. Our driveway issue has been settled by the courts, and the board of directors will follow the court order. Most of the affected people have put in their aprons as the court ordered. Those that have not put in their aprons will be sent back to the court. I am pleased to say that it is only a few people who push back on this and create trouble for the board of directors. I don't understand why they do that. Do they not want Leilani Estates to be the finest community in East Hawaii? It has been my, and then he goes on to another subject. So in 1983, apparently it was taken to court and people had court actions taken about them. I can't find it. I can't find what happened. But I certainly, if I shouldn't say this, it sounds like a campaign thing. I will push for whether I'm on the board or not next year to have much more stringent enforcement than we have in the past years. And I will tell you that this board has already begun the exploration with our attorney of how we put a fining process in place for the first time ever that we can tell in Leilani Estates, because what we feel is the CC&Rs have no teeth right now. Right? All that happens is we put a lien on property, and if you live at that property for the rest of your life, then you can just live with it forever. I, speaking as Andy, not for the board, but maybe other people feel the same way. I very much would like to see the CC&Rs where they truly affect the community, the ones that matter,
I would say,
stringently enforced. The board decided years ago that the 18-foot height requirement, as clearly written in the board, in the CC&Rs, was not going to be enforced.
right, but then the 800 square feet and all the other ones, they're not unreasonable, having a carport or a garage. I mean, when I bought, I looked at those, because I've been in homeowners associations where they're horrible, the amount of rules and regulations, and you break one and you get a fine.
Okay, so let me speak for Alice for a moment. Alice, you jump in.
I would like to speak to this since I'm in charge of the CCNR.
Alice is in charge of CCNR, so.
Member of what was a committee. And we found when we first came a really serious problem of unequal treatment of people with respect to violations for major CCNRs, especially things you couldn't see. And so in an attempt to stay away from, having people be really angry and say, well, so-and-so didn't have to do that, how come I have to do that? We are being a lot more careful about finding all of the certain categories of CCNRs and making sure that all the letters go out the same day and they're enforced equally. But the other thing we get from speaking with people is the much more immediate problem Leilani has, rather than, if you're near the setback or, if you have a enclosed bottom space, people really care about the nuisance ordinance, or the CCNR. And we have about 10 really bad nuisance situations, including Sionis. And we are going to partner with the county, who has the authority not only to come in and investigate these things, but to find them and make it stick. The county's ability to tax people and to foreclose on their property if they don't pay to have it fixed. But so we are focusing on fairly finding those 10 really awful nuisance places where people are making noise, they're running generators at night, they've got really loud parties, there's drugs, there's
abandoned cars,
and especially abandoned cars have increased. And so we also determined that we couldn't have the feeling that we're just snooping on people. We're requiring residents to make a complaint if there's somebody in your neighborhood that is really irritating the neighborhood, because the neighborhood is the ones who feel the worst of the stress. And these nuisance things are by far the worst. And so if we can get 2 people to write a complaint, then it doesn't have to be, it can be anonymous, because nuisance people are really likely to come after you if they find out you complain. But it's true of the other CCNR situations too, but we have determined as a committee that we cannot go forward just on our own account, because we don't want to be accused of picking on people.
Right, Alice, will the county enforce our CCRs?
No.
No, it's different. There's a bunch of rules that we used to we used to lump them in with the CCNRs when we wrote those letters, but they're actually county ordinances that
So the county will condemn unpermitted property. The county will enforce health laws. The county will come in and enforce zoning and planning requirements. It's already taking place at a property on Pomaikai through the efforts of one Leilani resident who's busted his ass to clear out a nuisance house alongside of him. It's moving along effectively. One of the things that we've been advised very strongly by our attorney is that what was done in the past was, particularly a board member, but several board members, acted in the pursuit of CC&R violations, but also with the very same person who ruled on those CC&R violations. And our attorney's telling us that's fraught with problems. The board should sit and pass the decision on the CC&R violation. So what Alice is talking about is we actively want you, that if you feel that something is a CC&R violation that bothers you, and that's really an important concept, if it bothers you, turn it in as a CC&R violation, and hopefully, going back to what Robert said earlier, the combined wisdom of the board will make the right decision. Does that mean we're smart? No. But it means that 7 of us, if we put our heads together, hopefully can make a good decision. There are folks who are outside this community who want to tell us how to run our CC&Rs. And truth be told, we're tired of it. If you want to live without CC&Rs, have at it. That's what you bought. But this community, I think to a large measure, I agree with Mark 100%. I bought here because of the CC&Rs, not in opposition to the CC&Rs. If you feel like you hate the CC&Rs, well then you shouldn't have bought here as far as I'm concerned. If that's harsh, so be it. It's honestly the way I feel. We all know the CC&Rs can't be changed. To think that you can go to court and change the that horse has left the barn. In 1969 they were written, and they were written with so much restriction against change, it's not going to happen. However, the board has a discretionary wisdom as to which ones to come down hard on and which ones not to come down hard on. I'll go on record as saying I could give a rat's ass about chickens, but I care a lot about roosters. And to me, that's the example of a discretionary enforcement of a CC&R.
So let me see if I can summarize what I think I just heard. One is the county, at least in the short term, in terms of just a continuum, we're going to be working with the county for enforcement where possible.
On their ordinances.
Okay. Going forward, to the degree we can, or actually I guess short of that, if a neighbor has a complaint, bring it to the board will consider it, it may take action on it. That would be another step forward.
Correct.
Additionally, the board is going to look at CC&R, maybe it'll be as a result of these complaints coming through, violations, and say, this seems to be a serious concern, let's go enforce this one, whatever it happens to be, roosters, for example. Okay, but then the challenge is, you can't do that selectively and enforce it on Kula Street, but not on, Pomona.
We're not going to act on anything we don't get a complaint on. So we are not going to drive around the community and look for aprons that don't exist. We're not going to do that. But Ross, I wanted to address what you said, because I think you said some really important things. And indulge me just a moment. Did we drop the ball on putting up a Christmas tree? Yes, we did. Did we not have as much holiday spirit here in this building as we could have? Yeah, you're right, we didn't. We also didn't put out a newsletter. First time it's ever happened, we didn't put out a newsletter. But we really felt like we had to keep our eye on the prize. And the eye on the prize was the crime on Miley Street. The eye on the prize was trying to keep people's homes safe to the best of our ability, and keeping the roads open, and keeping the community looking good to the best of our abilities.
I understand, I appreciate that, but the question I have, and I just want clarification, I'm not picking on you or trying to think that I don't appreciate, I know it's a lot of damn work, and it's a thankless job, really, but CCNRs are important.
Absolutely.
And so, in last month's meeting, you said that CCNRs were no longer considered being in good standing. So, if that is the case, if you have board members on the board, how can board members then enforce CCNR violations on anyone else? Seems like it's a conflict of interest to me.
No, it's not.
Why?
What it is
It's okay for the board member to.
What it is it's a direct interpretation of the bylaws. We are bound, no, you can't just smile this one away, Russ. We are bound by the bylaws. We do not get to suddenly add to the bylaws. Boards in the past have indiscriminately and without correct jurisdiction added to the bylaws as if it was an action they could take, and they couldn't.
So it's okay to have a less than 800 square foot home
That's
currently built?
absolutely not, absolutely not. But that does not make you in good standing. You're talking about apples and oranges. Ross, you need to see them as two independent documents standing alone. The CCNRs clearly call out what is and what is not a CCNR violation. The bylaws clearly call out what is in good standing, but never ever do the bylaws reference to the CCNRs, and never do the CCNRs reference the bylaws.
So my question is, that's fine, okay, so how could a board member, current or future, impose CCNR violations if they were not in compliance? It seems to me that.
That's why you vote people off the board.
Well, I would think that the board members should all be in good standing.
Who's not in good standing? Go ahead and point to the person here.
Well, I did go on the county record because I couldn't understand why nothing has been done this year, from what I can tell, and I'm not on the board, so I
We
don't
don't
know.
advertise it, Ross.
Okay, well, I don't know.
Russ, just cut to the chase here. Come on, you're dancing around.
No, I'm not dancing around. I did look up your property.
Okay.
Your property doesn't say 800 square feet.
Ross, we said very clearly, good standing meant that you're not in arrears of assessment, period.
You said that last month, I got that point. I'm asking about how we.
And so if someone is, in your interpretation, in violation of CCNR, that has nothing to do with good
Russ.
standing. They're two different issues.
Russ, so let me tell you. I had a CCNR complaint filed against me 5 months ago, okay? 3 board members came and inspected my property and unanimously decided that everything on my property met all of the CCNR violations. I mean that all of the CCNR. I'm out of here.
Well, the complaint was faulty, it was completely untrue.
Yes.
If, on the other hand, Ross, if you want to file the CCNR complaint again, you're welcome to do it. Russ, if you want to file the CCNR complaint again, you're welcome to do it. Okay, thank you. Okay. Chris?
But it sounds like the goal is the CCNR will eventually count towards your good standing. Because
No.
you're wanting to put fines associated, you just said that. You want to put fines associated to CCNR violations. That will make people not in good standings for CCNR.
If they don't pay the fines.
I'm just saying, that's it.
And as I said earlier, this board or any board moving forward could change the definition of in good standing, because it's in the bylaw.
But your objective is to get to where you can impose fines for CCNR violations.
Our objective is to keep and continue to keep Leilani Estates the finest subdivision in East Hawaii. We're there right now, but we need to be
But we've done
rigorous
that,
in
we've
moving
done
forward.
that for how long, and we haven't had fines associated with the CCR violations?
And we currently have about 6
So they're doing something right.
properties
It
that
sounds
are
like you don't need
visible
to do
from
that.
the street.
Maybe you're right.
Shacks, tents, or containers. They're visible, they're new, and there's more and more all the time.
You
I
bet.
didn't want to move into Ainaloa or these other places where that's allowed, and it's happening, and that's why.
So
I think
Russ, I had a
CCR
conversation,
should-
so I had a conversation with our attorney yesterday. And what the conversation subject was, how do we evict someone who's living in a tent on their own property? How do we do that? And what the attorney's answer was, it'll be tough.
And if you build something that's 300 square feet, and it's a shack and you can see it from the street, that's okay.
They'll call it an ag structure, and they're in the legal, they're legally.
Of course it's not okay, but
But that's just.
what
there's legals.
avenue do we have to act on? We can file a lien. That's it.
It's tricky, and I mean,
I'm sorry.
it's been tricky for a long time.
Quick question before I go. Okay, so one of the arguments here is about these unpermitted structures that are CCNR violations that is really, okay, the people on, wait. That like the people in the tent on their own property that they legitimately own is difficult to evict. Are these people paying dues?
I doubt it. Oh, no, wait a second. I think the one in particular that Russ is speaking of, which is over on Kabukai Street, is that the one probably we're talking about?
That's
Yeah, actually dues are current.
Okay, well, how about the dozen others?
I don't think there are dozens.
Well, I'm sure they're paying their dues, because they just won't live there. But it clearly.
The problem
doesn't
is
say
that
in the
our
CCNR.
CCNRs sometimes conflict with county and state definitions of what ag land is, and this is all considered ag, it's not considered residential.
Right.
You go look that up, I can tell you exactly where to go look it up, but you can have any structure under 600 square feet, and if you guys try to impose any kind of restrictions on them, you can't, because it's an ag structure. But if they're living in it, and they're crapping in it.
Okay, so let that go down as Chris's opinion.
Well,
Our attorney doesn't feel the same way, but suffice to say, it's
That's not what I
complicated.
heard.
It's complicated.
Well, no, it is extremely complicated, which is why I'm bringing up the question
Yeah.
of are these people in good standing? And then, as a good point that you just brought up, just to clarify, what is the pecking order of the laws? I.e., the question is, okay, we have our CCNRs right here. Then there's the county CCNRs or laws,
Okay.
right, would supersede our CCNRs,
Correct.
correct? Then there's the state.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to clarify. Thank you, guys. 4:30 comes pretty early, so I'm out of here. Have a good night, everybody.
This is extraordinary to me that you guys are still here.
Request, when you do get back to the attorney on who does own the jurisdiction, owns the side streets.
You'll be the first to know.
What I want also would like on that document is how many hours that he's charging LCA for that information. Just to, not like, beating on it, but like, how hard was this for you to find out as an attorney? Who knows what to look for?
Well, it's on TNK, but I mean.
What is that, the TNK thing?
I know, if he's dead and,
Jane, I hate to tell you, but on the file folder that I have that's addressing that question, it's called the Dane DuPont question. I don't know what else to tell you. Okay. Yeah.
I was just looking through my notebook and I just found this that I'd like to share with everybody. It's a quote, I don't know, I can't attribute it to anybody because I don't know where it came from, I didn't write it down, but it just says, a community is not gauged by its length and width, but by the broadness of its vision and the height of its dreams.
Okay.
Let's get started on the swimming pool.
We were
50 years late.
by a vote and the board passing it in 1975, we were supposed to have a goddamn swimming pool. And if we could all be hanging out at the swimming pool right now, we'd probably all be getting along a lot better. Does anybody else have anything else to say? Extraordinary that you, yeah, go ahead.
I just learned this the other day, and I think everybody should know it. When you buy chain for your gate, you can buy tempered chain, and it's really, really hard to cut with bolt cutters. And if you can hire...
They cut it with a grinder. They cut it with a battery power.
Not the tempered.
Yeah,
Not the
well.
tempered. And also, if you take chains and weld them around the hinge side of your gate, tempered or stainless steel, it makes it even harder for them to get in.
Although the better solution is get them out of here.
Yeah. That too.
So,
I'm also wondering if, you know, there's a meeting here on Saturday that.
yeah, there's a meeting on Saturday. It's nothing to do with the board. But,
I'm not able to make it, but I just was wondering if you were aware.
most, if not all, of the board will be at it. So, anyway, a genuine thanks to our community for having so much. The level of involvement, the level of upset, the level of discord is, to me, is a measure of how much you all care. And when somebody said, Ross, I think you said, us being all on the same page, based upon my 50 years of research, it ain't ever gonna happen. But with that said, Leilani Estates has survived, thrived, and existed for all these 50 years. There's no question that 2018 was the toughest year that Leilani Estates ever experienced and hopefully will ever experience again. But we are gonna get through it. We are gonna get to the end of it. And when we're done, and when I say we, I mean we, when we get done, we will have the best damn community in East Hawaii. So, but along the way, God, we're gonna get pissed off at each other. So with that said, meeting adjourned.